If you dove into the freezing waters of the Arctic Ocean, you would quickly realize that the cute little sea creatures you expect in tropical waters have transformed into something completely different. Their bodies have stretched to impossible lengths. Their limbs have grown to spans wider than dinner tables, and they have become versions of themselves that seem almost alien in comparison to their warm water relatives. It is as if the cold itself injected a size-enhancing serum into the DNA of these once normal-looking animals, and the most dramatic effects happen in the deepest, coldest parts of the polar seas. Some sea spiders grow legs that span over 2 feet across, while other animals develop bodies so massive they outweigh their tropical cousins by 10 times. The most extreme cases look even stranger. These are creatures warped by an environment so harsh and so cold that evolution had to redesign them just to survive. Why do these animals get bigger as the water gets colder? And what exactly is it about freezing temperatures that forces life into these oversized forms? To understand why this phenomenon happens, we first have to take a look at where these giants actually live. It is not like you will accidentally stumble across one of these massive creatures while snorkeling in the Caribbean. Most Arctic animals end up looking more like this. A regular sea spider from warmer waters lives in temperate zones and is the typical small-sized arthropod that comes to mind. But once you venture into the bone-chilling waters of the Arctic Ocean, you start to see this transformation taking effect. Sea spiders begin to acquire some pretty extreme traits. In this specimen, the legs have developed to stretch across distances you would never expect from something called a spider. They have grown to proportions that are more shocking than they are beautiful. Some species turn into giants, with leg spans reaching over 2 feet, almost as if they were built from completely different blueprints than their warm water relatives. But while definitely much larger than regular sea spiders, they are not necessarily the most extreme examples yet. At the coldest depths of these Arctic waters lives the colossal squid, the ultimate case of polar size enhancement. These creatures are over 14 feet long and can weigh up to 1,500 pounds, making them the heaviest invertebrates on the entire planet. Unlike earlier examples, these squids have developed rotating hooks designed to grab and tear apart their prey with devastating efficiency. They are known as titans, not just because of their incredible size, but because of their almost supernatural hunting abilities. Most squid species hunt using suction cups, but colossal squids attack with weaponized tentacles, using swiveling hooks to snare prey larger than most people could even imagine. They can grow eyes the size of dinner plates, literally the largest eyes of any creature that has ever existed on Earth. But are they really dangerous to us? They are terrifying in their capabilities, and yes, those hooks could definitely cause serious damage, but it is extremely unlikely they would ever encounter something that large. Some can be as large as a human. They usually target massive Antarctic fish and other deep-sea creatures, and there have not been any recorded incidents of colossal squids attacking people. We are safe for now, mainly because we would never naturally cross paths with them in their frigid deep-sea habitat. But if you explore even the most remote Arctic waters, the creatures you will encounter have been completely transformed by the extreme cold and have reached proportions where everyone can agree they are genuinely massive. Enter the bowhead whale, the Arctic giant with the thickest blubber layer of any whale species. I honestly do not know how evolution even decided this was necessary, but these whales unfortunately do need to survive in some of the coldest waters on Earth. They live in the harshest conditions on the planet. Despite weighing up to 100 tons, these animals are not just massive for the sake of being big. Their enormous size serves a crucial purpose in the Arctic environment, where every adaptation matters for survival. However, only a few complete specimens have ever been thoroughly studied. They represent some of the most elusive giants in polar waters because it is extremely difficult to research animals in such remote and dangerous conditions. Part of the reason we have not studied more of these giants is our inability to easily access creatures living in such hostile environments. But these are also naturally rare animals that have evolved to exist in one of the most challenging ecosystems on Earth. That's probably a good thing for maintaining the delicate balance of Arctic marine life. On the complete opposite end of the size spectrum in these same waters are the microscopic organisms that have also been affected by this phenomenon, growing to sizes that would be considered enormous in warmer climates. The longest-lived creatures in the Arctic are actually some of these size-enhanced invertebrates, which can survive for decades in the stable, cold environment that would kill most other marine life within hours. This phenomenon represents the most extreme example of environmental gigantism, and it demonstrates how powerful the effects of temperature can be on the fundamental biology of living creatures. These animals have developed bodies specifically designed for the harsh Arctic environment. Massive size is just one of many incredible adaptations that allow them to thrive where most life would simply cease to exist. The Arctic's giant anatomy has been shaped entirely by the unique conditions of polar waters, featuring thick insulation, enlarged organs for processing the limited food available, and body structures that conserve energy in extreme cold. Would seem completely alien if found in any other environment on Earth. So they are absolutely fascinating in their own right, and that is exactly why they have captured the attention of marine biologists worldwide. But these massive Arctic creatures are not even the most mind-blowing part of the story yet, since we have not explored what is actually causing this incredible transformation to happen in the first place. Even deeper in the Arctic waters live creatures that have been so dramatically altered by the extreme cold that they represent some of the most successful examples of polar adaptation ever documented. These are animals like the giant amphipods, crustaceans that have grown to lengths over 10 times larger than their warm water cousins. What makes this even more incredible is that these creatures are not just randomly getting bigger, they are following specific biological rules that determine exactly how large they can become. The secret behind this phenomenon lies in something most people never think about when looking at ocean water. Cold Arctic water holds dramatically more dissolved oxygen than warm tropical water does. Oxygen. These are levels so much higher they change what is possible for marine life. For almost all sea creatures, as body size increases, their cells need more oxygen just to stay alive and to function properly. In warm tropical waters, there is not enough dissolved oxygen to support truly massive animals. Oxygen becomes the limiting factor that keeps animals relatively small. In water that hovers just above freezing point, however, dissolved oxygen is abundant. With oxygen widely available, that natural size limiter disappears. Over millions of years, this oxygen-rich environment has pushed Arctic marine life toward giants, in some cases producing animals that seem like absolute monsters. And because these enormous bodies are actually better at conserving heat and storing energy in the brutal cold, evolution has literally forced these creatures to get bigger and bigger or face extinction. The metabolic effects are just as dramatic as the size changes themselves. These Arctic giants operate on completely different biological timescales than their warm water relatives. Their heart rates are slower. Their movements are more deliberate, and their entire life processes run like they are in slow motion compared to tropical species. But this is not a disadvantage. It is the key to their survival strategy. Take the Arctic sea stars, which can live for over 40 years compared to the 5-year lifespan that warm water sea stars typically have. These polar giants have evolved to play the long game, growing slowly but steadily to enormous proportions, while their tropical cousins live fast and die young. Some Arctic sea stars develop dozens of arms instead of the normal 5, creating creatures that look more like alien life forms than anything you would recognize as a typical starfish. But the truly weird part is that not every creature in Arctic waters got the gigantism treatment. A small number of species actually experience the complete opposite effect. They shrank down to become polar dwarfs instead of polar giants. While this is extremely rare, and most Arctic animals definitely grew supersized, some fish and invertebrate species are noticeably smaller than their relatives in warmer waters. In these harsh environments, where food can be scarce for months at a time, evolving a smaller body sometimes means reaching reproductive age faster and surviving longer stretches without eating. When the brief Arctic summer provides only a few months of abundant food, staying small can literally mean the difference between a species surviving and going extinct. What's absolutely fascinating is how the cold environment affects the speed of evolution itself. In Arctic waters, everything operates in biological slow motion. Chemical reactions slow down dramatically, metabolism drops to minimal levels, and reproduction cycles can take decades instead of years. A single generation of some Arctic species takes so long to complete that evolution happens at a glacial pace. Many of these polar giants are essentially living fossils, barely changed from their ancestors that swam in these waters tens of millions of years ago. Some Arctic invertebrates and fish lineages have remained virtually identical since before modern humans even existed. The environment has been so stable for so long that evolution never needed to make major changes. This stability is exactly what makes Arctic ecosystems so incredibly fragile, despite producing these massive creatures. When your entire biological system depends on everything staying exactly the same for millions of years, even small environmental shifts can cause catastrophic problems. The moment water temperatures start rising or oxygen levels begin dropping, all the evolutionary advantages that created these giants suddenly become deadly disadvantages. Being a massive Arctic creature sounds amazing until the environment that made you possible starts changing. These polar giants have one critical weakness that could spell disaster for their continued survival, and it is something that is already starting to happen in Arctic waters around the world. So, what is the verdict on these Arctic giants? Well, the cold waters of the polar regions have essentially become nature's laboratory for creating supersized sea monsters. From colossal squids with dinner plate eyes to sea spiders with 2-foot leg spans, these creatures show that when you remove the usual limits that keep animals small, evolution goes absolutely wild with the possibilities. The oxygen-rich environment of freezing Arctic waters has lifted the biological constraints that normally keep marine life at manageable sizes. Combined with slower metabolisms and the need for better heat conservation, these conditions have pushed creatures toward gigantism on a scale that seems almost too incredible to be real. But here is the thing that makes this phenomenon both amazing and terrifying at the same time. These polar giants, they are living proof that our planet still holds mysteries. We are only beginning to understand. We have explored less than 5% of Arctic waters, which means there could be dozens of undiscovered giant species lurking beneath the ice that dwarf even the colossal squid. Some scientists think there might be Arctic creatures so massive that our current research equipment literally cannot detect them properly. But as impressive as these giants are, they are also some of the most vulnerable creatures on Earth. Their entire existence depends on conditions staying exactly as they have been for millions of years. The moment Arctic waters start warming up, these incredible adaptations that took eons to develop could become their downfall. It is kind of sad to think that some of the most remarkable animals our planet has ever produced might not survive to see the next century. Still, for now, these Arctic giants continue to rule their frozen domains as living proof that evolution can create things more incredible than anything we could ever imagine. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos about the world's most extreme marine life, check out the one about deep sea creatures that appears on your screen right now.